Welcome to the Hour of Sour podcast, episode 6, where we're going to talk about Christmas and also Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City and
Christmas.
Don't Look Up.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot it.
So did
How
I.
was
already.
Christmas?
I forgot Christmas.
So my Christmas was really
Christmas?
nice. I started at midnight by doing some video editing on assignment I'm going to hand in tomorrow for Joe Blow. It's a profile on Zach Galligan. And by the way, Rob, one of your favorite Christmas movies, Gremlins, I watched that for the first time. And I liked it. I'll say that Gremlins 1 I liked, had some ideas
You said you
in there.
didn't like it.
Oh, I didn't like Gremlins 2.
Yeah, Gremlins 1 was fun. Gremlins 2, but it was short enough, made its way along. It's like a distraction for 2 hours. Not something I'd recommend. I don't regret seeing it, but I will say this. So I watched Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which also starred Judge Reinhold and Phoebe Cates. Maybe it's because when I saw Fast Times, maybe I was about closer to 16, 17. And I didn't care for it. I hate that movie. I hate the guys specifically in that movie who are just scumbags, especially the one that looks like Jimmy Fallon. But I didn't really respond to Phoebe Cates' character. Here, I found her really charming and really cute. Probably because
Phoebe Cates is the only good thing about Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I don't know how that movie has won the acclaim it has. I don't know how Cameron Crowe has won the acclaim he has. Cameron Crowe fucking sucks. He's never made anything that's any good. That's
you don't like Almost Famous?
No, hell no. I remember watching Almost Famous going, when does this get good? When am I supposed to be interested? This is
You don't like Jerry Maguire?
Might as well watch a Richard Linklater movie if I want to be this fucking bored.
I don't remember these old movies.
I was bored by Say Anything a bit.
They're just, I don't get it. But you watch them and everyone's like, oh my God, dude, this is a movie that fucking defines a generation. I'm like, no, I've seen the generation defining 80s movies. They're called John Hughes movies. Cameron Crowe does not make these definitive fucking movies, especially when you use examples like Almost Fucking Famous and Say Anything and Jerry Maguire. You watch the shit and you're like, I see the memes and the shit that people have made fun of with them, but this is a boring fucking movie. So I'm sorry, that's a tirade, but Cameron Crowe sucks.
So you're not in, just to be clear, you're not in on We Bought a Zoo?
Oh, We Bought a Zoo.
I thought in my head, and this was funny, if I ever write a story or something happens to me, and I blank in my head, like let's say you're being interviewed, you're like a local hero saves whatever, something.
Local hero
how
has
hilarious would it be?
Large penis.
How funny would it be if something was like, I was just thinking about what Matt Damon says in We Bought a Zoo of how you need 15 seconds of insane courage. And that's what inspired me to act like that. This mediocre movie from 2011
if that ever happens,
checked in some
I'm going to
big
be
heroic moment.
Phil was having a heart attack. So Phil and I were walking down Princess Street and Phil started having a heart attack.
Yeah.
And I'll tell people, it was like that scene in Passion of the Christ when Christ is getting fucking whipped to death by the Romans and all the skin and shit is flaying off his back. I said to myself,
great use of CGI in that scene.
If Jesus can speak in Latvian, then I can save Phil's life.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else
about
Christmas?
Speaking of the parts that Phil's going to edit out.
Speaking of Christmas.
Yeah,
did you actually have a heart attack, Phil, or is that theater?
Sorry, what?
He did have a heart attack.
Really?
Not yet. I haven't. Not yet.
Okay.
I will. I just haven't chosen a date.
Some people get through life without having a heart attack.
Oh,
with a
you
bullet
don't say.
To the brain.
Yes,
my dad had a heart attack. I find that
my grandfather did. My dad had a heart attack actually.
Yeah, my dad hasn't had a heart attack. My dad had Bell's palsy, where that's where you almost have a stroke, or they think you're having a stroke.
Side of your face goes a little.
Yeah, he had to wear an eye patch. He looked like a fucking pirate. It was great.
My brother had that, and a friend of mine in university had that as well. There's actually a funny joke, and I laughed at it, and I didn't hear it until. Do you guys ever watch the A-Team when it's on TV?
Nope.
With Bradley Cooper and stuff.
Rob is old enough to enjoy those.
The original 18
by Bradley Cooper, and he was like, "No, last time you cooked that, it gave me Bell's palsy," and I didn't hear it until like the last time I watched it on TV. But it made me, knowing then, like I didn't know what Bell's palsy was when I saw it in theater, but it made me laugh afterwards. I don't know. It's just classic rewatchable moment when it's like, oh, I didn't get this the first time, but I do this time.
Any more about Christmas?
Yeah. So yeah, I watched Gremlins and Gremlins 2. I watched a lot of movies. I open in the morning of Christmas Eve, and I watched Resident Evil: Welcome to Raccoon City, which we'll get to. Mm-hmm. Which I enjoyed uncritically. We'll get to it, but
we'll get to it.
Then I watch The Ref, which Rob also recommended, another one, and it was the funniest, most well-written, well-acted movie I think I've seen in a year. Like it was funny. It paints itself into a corner at the end of like, okay, how do we resolve this kind of thing? But the fact that it had already taken the step earlier of, there's a scene where it's like he has Kevin Spacey and Judi Davis tied up. And it's like the son is coming home, the parents are coming. And it's like on a show like Hawkeye, they would be like, okay, cancel it. And they cancel it because that's a reasonable thing to do. And the stakes don't get raised. Well, on this one, they're like, just by a simple montage by Ted Demme, who directed Blow and a couple of other movies, died of, I think, a heart attack, actually, of cocaine.
I think a heart attack due to cocaine.
Yeah, too much blow, ironically. Or ironically. Anyways, where they, with just a few settings and stuff, they're like, okay, Dennis O'Leary puts on a suit and stuff, and the relatives come. And I'm like, I admire them for going in this direction of the story of like committing to the premise, upping the stakes. And it's a bit ridiculous. It's kind of like when they go to space in Fast and Furious 9. But at least for the first part, when they commit to it, when the movie says, okay, we're going to commit to this, and kind of takes the idea seriously, there's something to be admired there. So I thought it was like really funny, led to a lot of like funny scenes. Rob mentioned like, oh, and your father was from like Korea, and he's like, and your mother wasn't, you know. So it was yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. And then I watched Holiday Inn, which is the breezy underplottedness of those old movies where kind of nothing is happening, and it's kind of a collection of scenes, but you don't have to pay attention too much. And it's like, the characters are nice. It's a positive world to live in. That was good. The origin story of White Christmas, the horrifying origin story of White Christmas, when a girl is putting on black makeup to wear blackface, and you're like, oh, this isn't going to be good. And then they cut to her singing in blackface. And then they cut to Bing Crosby in blackface. And then they cut to the whole crowd in blackface. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, you know, it was one of those, yeah, it was a different time, I get it, but it's just so hilariously, and you could take it out and nobody would notice, but the fact that like nobody has seen this movie again yet, that I'm sure in like 2 Christmases from now,
don't tell them,
Generation Z gets old enough,
I remember
the right person will complain.
I remember Karen and I and Leslie were going through the AFI Top 100, and I believe 96, we were starting at the top. Number 96, I believe, is a movie called Yankee Doodle Dandy from, I believe like 1936 or 32 or something like that. And there's a scene of, blackface, whole crew of white folks doing blackface during, I believe, like a vaudeville show. And it was so, like, and the fact that nobody has a problem with it. We were watching, we're like, dude, I can't watch this. You've seen these movies before where you're kind of like, oh God, I want to like fucking hide my head under the table because I don't want anyone to know I've seen this. It was like that. And I was just like, I'm sure there's a reason this is important to the AFI, but it's not for me, so I'm not watching it.
But for me, it's one of those things that they think they can overlook it because it's like a classic, and putting something at a distance like that is a way of putting it, you know, above reproach. Matrix does this a bit where it's like, oh, if we revere it, and it's like, look at it as some faraway classic that's untouchable, then it escapes.
Yeah, but when it comes to the subject of race, if you have a movie that not celebrates is the wrong word, but it's the only word that really fits. but a movie that celebrates the racism of the time, like Gone with the Wind, is a great example. There is a reason that Gone with the Wind is very culturally important to movie making as an art form, because Gone with the Wind is an incredible feat of movie making. That doesn't excuse the racism that's in it, but it never said the racism is never a focal point of the story. It's just because this is what the South was like. You know what I mean? Same with, and I know it's a more recent example like Tarantino movies and Django Unchained and stuff like that. It was a sign of those times. But with stuff like Yankee Doodle Dandy, it's just like, Jesus Christ, they're just loving the fact that they can do blackface. It's fucking hilarious. And it's not played for jokes. It's not played for irony. It's just, yeah, we're allowed to do this. And I was like, no.
For me, it's the fact that, like, because even before I culturally knew that it was wrong, I never liked it simply because it always looks ugly and it's not remotely believable. Like, you could say this and it would be wrong, but like Robert Downey Jr. doing blackface for reasons like that his character is related to, people are okay with it, is that it's actually like a good makeup job. Like every time somebody does it.
Yeah, in Tropic Thunder, it's fucking funny.
It's distracting and stuff. So it's always, even before I grew responsible and known enough to know how wrong it was, I felt that it was wrong just because it always looks bad. And there are Black people in Holiday Inn, and I just never understand, and I'm hopefully never will, the thought process of the people of like, why was that ever okay? Like, you have Black people there, Black people are required to whatever musical you're doing. Why don't you just have them there? Like, what's wrong with it? Like, what's the reasoning?
The answer is racism, because we can.
I know, but
on
the thing
that
with racism is that it's always about something else. It's like, well, I don't like them. Why? For that.
Same
like, there's
note,
always that second element. But
I love that I saw a great interview with Cleveland Little, the guy that played Sheriff Bart in Blazing Saddles. Now, Blazing Saddles, have you guys seen Blazing Saddles?
Yeah, my parents had us watch. I've only seen like bits and pieces of it, but I've seen most of it.
Possibly the funniest movie ever made. I'd say probably not even possibly.
We loved the farting scene as kids.
The funniest. The farting scene is one of many and one of the lesser jokes of the movie. That movie is hilariously funny and could never ever get made again, because
I think it could.
No, not in a blue. I'd say watch the movie, and then you will totally understand why it can never get made again. But what's funny is,
I get it. I get it. It's very politically incorrect, but Tarantino said
it's not just that it's politically incorrect; it's that it's mean-spirited, and the mean-spirited is what makes it funny. But I saw a great.
There's a lot of mean spirit today,
where Cleveland Little I can't remember the other guy's name, but he's got to say some horribly racist things to Cleveland Little, and he said to him, like, I don't know if I can say this to you. It's really bothering me to say this to you. And he said, listen, he goes, this is all a joke. He goes, no one here, even if they are racist in real life, this is all a big joke. Mel is treating it as a joke. Mel Brooks directed the movie. Mel's treating it like a joke. We know that Richard Pryor wrote this shit, so of course it's a big fucking joke to Richard Pryor. All of this is a big joke. If I thought for a second that you were serious, he goes, then we would be fighting each other. But the fact that I know you're joking allows you to do this. And he's like, well, what if the audience doesn't get that we're joking? He goes, that's the fucking joke. If anybody watches this movie and takes this racism seriously, they're either complete racist morons or they're complete racist morons. Everybody else is going to get that it's a joke. So that's one thing I will say about racism. And when there's white people, Black people, you're like, how could white people be such assholes like that? Because if you watch Blazing Saddles and you're one of the people that's like, oh my God, this is so cruel and racist, you're an idiot. And also, I think you're a closet racist. If you watch Blazing Saddles and you're like, this is goddamn hysterical, then you understand that, oh, it's a big joke. It's okay when it's funny and really funny. It's not funny or acceptable when it's being played for different reasons other than being funny.
I think that you could probably make Blazing Saddles today. It would probably be a TV show, though. I think that,
you could not make Blazing Saddles, and let me actually even make my point a bit further. You could not make Blazing Saddles with the same jokes. Not at all. Not in
with
not in the most
what?
woke fucking world on the planet.
But people like to say that, but it's like a very well regarded movie. People like it a whole lot. You get people who understand the material, and you could remake it very easily. For one thing, if we're going from the remake angle, I think you absolutely could.
There's a wonderful YouTube clip that you can find about Mel Brooks explaining why you could never make it again in front of a college audience. I won't repeat the stuff that he says because we don't want to get banned off YouTube. But he says, someone asked him, he says, a lot of people have asked him before, could you remake Blazing Saddles? And you couldn't. And you want to know why? He goes, because of this one line that's said by a nice old lady to Sheriff Bart. And he says the line, and the whole fucking audience like, oh, none of them laugh. You hear a couple, ha ha ha. He's like, and that the fact that you react like that, that's the reason you could remake this movie.
You can take out a line or two. You could make an alteration, but
you could not.
The premise of the movie.
You take away
the
all
thing
the
is,
jokes.
It would be. I want to say two final things about this. Number one, earlier this year, to promote his book, Quentin Tarantino was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and Joe Rogan, in his typical bullshit way, who for an actor is pretty clueless about like movies and stuff. He was
kind of clueless about everything.
He specifically mentions like Blazing Saddles and some of Quentin Tarantino's movies, like Reservoir Dogs, and he's like, "Oh, you couldn't make that movie today. They wouldn't let you." And Quentin Tarantino is like, I've thought about this, and it's kind of specifically a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like he says, when you look at the trend of the 80s and the 90s being similar with the late 80s to being more politically correct, like you notice with a lot of the late 80s movies, they're kind of more softer, sanitized, very good. But they're so in contrast to where things were in the 70s of being so avant-garde, to taking so many chances, and especially like the 60s and whatnot, with something like an X-rated movie like Midnight Cowboy winning Best Picture. And he says Reservoir Dogs is a complete antidote to that. And when I was making Reservoir Dogs, I was just kind of writing it for me. And the producer, Lawrence Bender, who produced The Harder They Fall, was like, Quentin, I think you should make this more than just like a backyard movie that you're making. And he's like, nah, whatever. He's like, give me 6 months and I'll make it. And his whole point is that it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like the way that the 80s were going was like one way. And then with the ushering in, not just of the 90s, but of this movie, it changed the way that movies were made. So he was just basically saying, like, who the fuck is they? Like, they won't let you make it. Like, who's they? Like, somebody will fund, like Breitbart could fund this, or Netflix could fund this because they don't, think it's anything or something. Like Cloud Atlas was assembled by 20 different donors, over $100 million. You absolutely could get the money together, make it. Now that I understand the difference between it being released by like Warner Brothers, Universal, Sony, or Disney wouldn't make it, but like, maybe Lionsgate probably would, or someone else would. And it would be like, there are artists and auteurs out there like Tarantino who could make something like this, especially if they understand the material. And if it's good material, then it will get made. So the whole idea of, in my opinion, things are actually more freely expressing, even though we're being choked at the top by, corporates, that I think that you absolutely could and make a movie like that today. It's just structurally would probably be a TV show. A lot of people consider like Yellowstone, which is Republican minded, as kind of against the times of where we're in today. There's a lot of like cheesy dated stuff on Yellowstone. I watch it from time to time, but I absolutely think you could make something like Blazing Saddles today. It's just people are comfortable saying, oh, you can't, because it's a classic and kids today are like too sensitive or something like that. And I think it's kind of the opposite. We consume more and we consume more dangerous stuff every day. I just think it's a question of form. Is anybody good enough to make Blazing Saddles today like Mel Brooks? Probably not. The best we could do was Seth MacFarlane and Once Upon a Time in the West. So it has to be, one of us.
Rob?
The difference between Once Upon a Time in the West and Blazing Saddles is funny.
Rob, how was your Christmas?
It was great. Similar to Will, I watched a shit ton of movies. I had the week off from work, and I watched a bunch of shit. I have the 4K transfer of Lawrence of Arabia, which is a gorgeous fucking movie to watch. Very long movie, 3 hours and 40 minutes. But no, love Lawrence of Arabia. It's one of the first movies that taught me about huge vistas for movies, which is
nothing
cool.
Has the sweep of that, right?
Yeah. Watched that. I watched a bunch of 4K movie. I watched the original Transformers from '87 in 4K, which 4K transfer looked pretty good. I watched the Universal Monster movies in 4K, which the transfer was terrible. I watched a bunch of 4K shit. Bunch of stuff that I had to talk about, like Titan. I think we talked about that. I watched Titan, which I think was the one movie that surprised the shit out of me, that I really, really liked a lot. But present wise, I was very, very surprised. I rarely get presents as the dad. Usually everybody else makes out, especially my kids. My kids make out really well. My wife, because her birthday is in January, and then our anniversary is in February, and then my birthday is in March. We usually just skip each other for Christmas, and then we get something on our birthdays and anniversaries. But no, the girls got me and I don't want to show it because I don't want to fucking lift it up here again. The Death Star, Lego Death Star, which is like $900, and it's 4,752 pieces, I believe.
That's Rob's Xbox Series X.
Yes, correct. And I Phil and I were talking before we started recording this. I need to set up where I'm going to display it first before I actually build it, and I decided I'm going to put it inside of a coffee table. So I was very that, and it's funny. My wife said that the last time that she was able to, technically, with a gift, because the last time I got truly surprised was we decided not to find out the sex of our second child, and when he popped out, they said it's a boy. I went, yes, and then all the women in the room looked at me. I was like, I would have been happy either way, but yay, he's a boy. But really, I was super happy he was a boy, not a girl, because I don't know what to do with girls, and a girl with my attitude would fucking kill me. But no, even before we were married, our very first Christmas together, she got me 3 put on wood, the original posters for the Star Wars movies, which I still have to this day. You guys have seen them. They're just outside my office.
Yeah.
But yeah, the reason I bring it up is this is the first time in Elliot's now 9 in like 10 years that I was very surprised by something that I got. So that was great. What about you, Phil? How was your Christmas? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I wanted to say one thing before I asked Phil. Was 4K transfer of a 1987 animated movie? How does that work?
It's taken from the original negative, but the original negative, I believe, was only a 2K. So it's effectively upconverted, but it's very cleaned up from its original negative. So yes, you're still watching only a 2K transfer, but from a restored and clean, there's no blur, there's no the colors are very vibrant.
Yeah,
it just looks better than what you remember from watching that original cartoon.
And did you buy this or see it other means?
Saw it by other means.
Yeah. Phil, what'd you get?
A stork
I didn't even
came in with the film
and delivered it.
Yeah. My Christmas was fun. I got a nice little Apple Watch here, and which I enjoy.
Which series?
It's the SE. I didn't need the most recent, so and I didn't
heart rate.
Yeah, I didn't need
the heart rate, the
ECG or something is what you're thinking of. Yeah,
electrocardiogram.
Didn't need that though. It would help, but I didn't need that.
See, and I want the heart rate one. So as we're recording our podcast and arguing with each other, you'll see my heart rate go up and up and up and up. That way we can track each other's heart rates.
I misspoke. They do the heart rate. It's just the electrocardiogram does something different, I think.
Nice. Phil's ignoring us and playing with his fucking watch.
Yeah, it's more important.
I forgot to say. what I got for Christmas, and I'll be quick because it's only 3 things. I used to get, and this was the first Christmas where it's like my mom always talks about cutting down, and we always talk about cutting down, and she still gives us like 5, 10 things. This was like the first Christmas that was like weirdly relaxing to me, and it's like I got a toque. Oh, nice.
It's backwards, but
77 degrees, is that what it is?
no, that's my heart rate.
Your pulse is 77.
You can see the graph; it goes up and down.
I'm gonna put up my Fitbit so we know my heart rate. I'm sorry, Phil. We'll keep
81.
Here's my Fitbit. All a 10.
I got a Fitbit. What is this?
Nice.
Ionic? No, I hadn't had it before.
My sister liked the Fitbit better than the Apple Watch. I like the Apple Watch.
So I got a toque. I got a nice cyan blue zip up, which is
Phil. What was your heart rate?
I put it away. And
81.
I got
82.
$100 gift card from Amazon. And that was it. But I felt good about that.
77.
It was my first Christmas of getting like 3 things, which I've always talked about with my mom. I'm like, I'm fine with anything, I'm fine with anything. Like, I didn't even get her a list this year, which many years gone by, I haven't given them lists or anything. But like occasionally I do. But like I couldn't think of anything. I couldn't think of anything to even get anyone. I wanted to get my brother Fleetwood Mac on vinyl. But it was like every time I checked it and decided on the price, it would go up. So I wanted it like to pay it for 40, it was 60. And then a couple of days go by and I check it. I'm like, no, a couple of months go by. I'm like, oh, I'll get it. It's 80. And then a couple of days ago, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get it. I'm going to send it express and I'm going to send it to him. And it was 120. And I'm like, fuck, F this. So it was a small Christmas for everybody. It was so relaxing because I could do editing at night. And then I woke up in the morning, opened the gifts. We talked to the nephews via FaceTime, and that was it. There wasn't even turkey dinner cooked because none of us like wanted it or cared. We didn't want my mom to do the work. Nobody else was being there. My dad was working,
we did lasagna for dinner.
Yeah, I think we did turkey dinner at like 5 o'clock, and then we were all asleep at like 7:30. What about you, Phil? All got was the Apple Watch, or did you get something else?
I got a nice nifty shirt. I got some new Bluetooth headphones. I focus more on my son, as you know, as being a parent. Like I want to see him super happy on Christmas morning, and I live vicariously through that. So I've got
a budding. Sorry, not to interrupt, but I've got a budding teenager now. So of course teenagers can't be happy with anything, right? They've always got to be morose and angry and sad, and life is so.
You have to give them like $6,000 things for them to be happy.
Dexter has decided he likes puzzles, right? So we got him a shit ton of fucking puzzles.
Like his
he's on these puzzles. He's like, oh great, yeah. Oh no, I really wanted another puzzle. I'm like, see, you fucking ask, and that's what we get you, and then you don't like it. So next time.
Don't ask.
If you do one puzzle and you're like, wow, I'm glad that's over, don't fucking say that you want a bunch of puzzles. Because I think we got 4 1,000-piece puzzles.
Oh, no.
He said he wanted the 1,000-piece one, man. So we got it for him. But yeah, it was funny watching him open stuff because he was like, oh, yeah, great. And then the one thing that he said he wanted the most was the Nintendo Switch online expansion with N64 and Sega and all that shit. So we got that. He signs into his Switch. He's like, oh, cool. Oh, that's great. Like, are you going to play anything? No. He just goes to his bedroom, starts fucking around on his iPad again with Procreate. I'm like, fuck, I hate children so much.
Alexander got the Iron Man Lego, the Hulkbuster before it was Hulkbuster. Obadiah Staines
thing. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so
Ironmonger.
Yeah, that's it. You're right.
Monger. That's what it is.
So he got that. It was a nice big 400-piece whatever. He's doing his 500-piece NASCAR Lego, and what else? He got a watch too. One of those VTech DX3. It's all bullshit. But he doesn't even wear it. But at least he's playing around with it here and there. I thought he'd be over the moon, but no.
You monitor his heart rate, it's like fucking 150 beats per minute compared to ours.
Probably.
I'm still scarred from I remember it must have been like 2002, 2003, 2004, and I had gotten like BattleBots Arena, Mr. Magoo, on VHS.
Leslie Nielsen?
Yep. And a couple of things that I wanted. I really wanted a video game, but I don't even think I expressed, or no, maybe it was close to the end of the holiday that I expressed that I
can't do it last
Santa
minute
that I had wanted it, and I cried that I didn't get anything that I wanted. I remember I got this big race car track set, which the thing that set it off was it was supposed to do a loop-de-loop, but it didn't. It would run out of steam before and it wouldn't even click together really well. Like there was a gap in it. And
it was like from Giant Tiger.
I remember I
Hot Wells
put it together and it didn't work. And like I was just kind of off playing on my own. I cried, and my sister was like, "Oh, what's wrong? Didn't you have a good Christmas?" I'm like, Santa didn't get anything.
Didn't understand me.
And and my mother was so sad on Santa's behalf, and I feel like terrible looking back on it. My mom laughs about it because it was like, even though she cried her eyes out at the time.
I will say to all the kids out there that are watching, divorced parents means 2 Christmases, and it works, especially in the start. They want to outdo each other.
There's nothing bad about divorce.
Oh, it was great. I got my mom got me. I think my mom got me Omega Supreme, who was the Autobot City, and then my dad got me a stereo, if I remember correctly. So they were constantly trying to outdo each other. It's great. I mean, it did scar me emotionally, but also great.
Yeah.
Game Boy.
So was the stereo Supreme? That's the best that you got, Rob, as a kid?
When I was No, I think the best present I've ever gotten was probably this. Oh, well, that's not true. Karen, you probably can't see it, because it's over there. Karen got me the Power of the Force 1995 AT-AT Walker, which was really, really nice. That surprised me many Christmases ago. But no, this Lego Star Wars, this came right out of left field, so this might be the best present I've ever.
Oh, that was a big surprise for you, huh?
Yeah, I did not fucking see that coming at all. Because we've talked about it, and I've said
that's always good.
Maybe when I retire, there's 3 or 4 maybe big Lego sets, Star Wars Lego sets, of course, that I want to build. There's like the Executor and
Death Star,
the Millennium Falcon, and the Death Star and stuff. And yeah, did not fucking see this one coming from them. What was funny too is I found out afterwards that they kept it at a friend of ours' house for about 2 months. I mentioned something about it, and they bought it about 2 months ago.
Nice.
And it stayed at Keith's house for the last 2 months, and then he brought it over Christmas Eve night, and they put it in the garage, and then brought it in from the garage.
Yeah, mine's definitely the Game Boy.
Yeah. Oh,
we've said that before.
How did they do it? Because I remember my brother, not sure if he had a Game Boy Color, and me and my other brother got a Game Boy Pocket. That's like 3 Game Boys. And that's like something. I remember one year, me and my brother Sam, probably the biggest gift our parents had ever gotten us was a PlayStation 2. And, that thought of my parents growing up as like poorer than they were, because it was like youngest of 5. And I didn't think we'd ever get a game console, even though my brothers had gotten Sega Genesis for Christmas, and they had gotten PlayStation 1 for Christmas. Me and my brother getting a PlayStation 2, it's like, oh my gosh, like that was probably the biggest, most satisfying.
That was worth it to your parents, I bet anything. That surprise, that.
And my mom saying this year, especially with like all the grandkids, it's like Christmas is the one time where you do want to spoil your kid. Like things Rob talks about, it's like, yeah, you got it. They play with it like a crash test dummy one year. I remember I got a
the figure or the dolls.
Yeah. What? The figure. the figure is something that my older brother had gotten, not me. And they played he really wanted it, and he played for it like 5 minutes.
I
and
remember
then my mom
those.
went and saw it in the garbage.
Oh wow!
Afterwards.
I remember 5 or 6 years ago. I think it was 5 years ago. For Christmas, we had just refinanced our mortgage in Brampton, and we got like a bunch of money from our mortgage, so we put it into a fund, or what's it called? I can't remember, something. And we decided, hey, we're going to go to Disney World for Christmas. So we gave the boys a frame that had like a chalkboard part in the middle of it that said like 82 days, I think, before we go to Disney. And the boys opened that, and I remember Dexter was like, "What's this?" We're like, "We're going to go to Disneyland or Disney World, wherever we were going." And he's like, as in 82 days, he's like, "Well, what can we do with this right now?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "It's a countdown." He's like, "Oh, I guess it's all right." But when you think of it in hindsight, you're like, of course, he's a little kid. He's like, immediate. I need immediate gratification right now. We were like, in 80 days,
there's
we're going to go.
something actually that I got last year from my sister that I haven't used because like I'm not even sure how to use it. It was like it looked like a bookmark, and it was like a sign up for a podcasting service that I hadn't used. It's because I've never gotten a podcast off the ground. And I meant to ask you, Phil, like, are you still posting these Hour of Sours on like Spotify and stuff? Or
Talk to Rob.
What?
Rob does the audio stuff.
Yeah, and I do, but I don't post them as often as we record them. I'll post like maybe 2 a week, 3 a week type of thing.
Yeah, he's got a backlog right now.
Listeners? Do we have any listeners?
On Spotify, maybe. I publish it and then I rarely check, but I'm sure we must have 1 or 2.
Yeah. I'll have to.
I can send you the link and you can put it wherever. Or
we
it's on watchingcomplain.com, right?
Yeah, we have to move along, and we're going to talk about a movie that Resident Evil: Welcome to Raccoon City.
Mm-hmm. So, I was too young to play the first Resident Evil. It was one of the few things my mom had heard about that was too violent for us to play, so I never played it. And then the first one that I actually got a chance to play was Resident Evil 5. Best co-op experience I'd ever had. I never played 6, but I went back and played 4. And then 7 I played through.
Was 5? Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. Was 5 the first run and gun Resident Evil? Was that
no? It was the second. 4 was the first run and gun one. 5 is where you go to Africa. The graphics are better, and they add co-op. And it got a lot of criticism because it's basically an action game. But I love.
And you're shooting black people the whole time.
Well, they're all zombies. This is where it annoyed me because the controversy was that, you're shooting black people, even though it takes place in Africa. So they changed it so that it's like, you're shooting at white people, an Asian person, and then an Indian guy all at once. And it's kind of like, it was to me where it was like a knee-jerk reaction of like, yeah, I get the politics of it aren't that good, but it's like for believability of the setting for whatever Resident Evil does, it's like, do we really think that Capcom is being racist because you're Chris Redfield? It's one of those things that the internet kind of ruined. But whatever, the game is still good. So I hold that heart in my memories. The Resident Evil movies that Paul W.S. Anderson did, it always annoyed me because I liked how they created basically their own plot. Especially in the beginning with Alice. So I liked Alice as a character, you know. But
I like
it's kind of gone too far where people regard the previous Paul Anderson movies as like classics or something. They're shit movies all the way through. The only one that I actually like, unironically, and I've figured out that for different reasons, that makes me like, okay, it's a waste of time, is the 6th one, the very final one, where it's kind of wrapping everything up. It totally feels like a wrap up of the series, the 6th one. Resident Evil, the end or what, the final chapter.
Yeah.
So I enjoy it. It's like all action. Has a few like, this is Mad Max, this action on top of a tanker and stuff like that. The plot moves along quickly. There's a big exposition dump at the end, but because of the history and the crazy, stupid, but simplistic plotting that happens, I buy it. So it's a pretty, solid payoff to a terrible series, but a payoff nonetheless. This movie was just basically a retelling of the video games for me, and that's all I was looking for because I haven't played 1, 2, or 3 despite the remasters. I thought it was fine, even though
it was
a lot of
as someone old enough to have played the originals when they came out, especially I played Resident Evil 1, and then I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. And then I anticipated Resident Evil 2 coming out, and then played Resident Evil 2, got it as soon as it came out, started playing Resident Evil 2, and dude, I fucking loved Resident Evil 1 and 2. Played Resident Evil 3, which is Nemesis, a bit, and then I got off, didn't really play much anymore. But Resident Evil 1 and 2, which is what these two shows, this movie is based on, Resident Evil 1 and 2.
Does it do 3 at all? Because I was kind of confused on that.
Yeah, the Nemesis is in it, and the big Nemesis in that's Resident Evil 3. That big monster that turns into with the eyes on his shoulder and shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, to just Will's talking about Resident Evil 5 and all these great memories of it. Resident Evil 2, well, Resident Evil 1, 2 an extent, but Resident Evil 2, I was scared shitless playing that game because I would get right in, every fucking light in my room, because when I was a kid, I was still home, was off, and I'd be
this
playing.
Explains a lot.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved Resident Evil 2, especially in the one scene that I remember. It's funny in the Paul W.S. Anderson movie, they do it, and I was waiting for it in this movie, and they don't. Is if you remember in the Paul W.S. Anderson one, when the guy looks up, it's called the liquor on the ceiling where it just looks like a brain with a tongue.
Yeah.
They the way it's on the ceiling, then it jumps down. That's exactly the cinematic out of the video game. And they did that a couple times in this movie where they had exact cinematics out of the video game. Not Yui Bowl style where they take the actual video game, but where they try to make it look like the video game.
Yeah.
And they did it pretty spot on, which was really cool. And I was telling Phil before we started recording, out of all the shows and movies that I had to watch for what we recorded tonight, I think this was my favorite.
This surprises me so much. Like,
it's, you know what?
Because you thought that we would say that the shit film is a shit film.
Yes.
It took itself as seriously as it needed to. It never took itself too seriously. It always knew how tongue-in-cheek it was. Got a couple things wrong that I didn't like, but it never tried to do Hawkeye and take itself uber seriously. It never did the Matrix Resurrections and try to be. What's that?
The cast was
I would
kind
agree.
of pretty, like, I remember thinking, like, I knew this was going to be a lower budget Resident Evil. So when I saw how crappy it looked from the trailer, I'm like, oh, yeah, like, this is what I expected, like the straight to video Doom sequel, which I never saw. But like, as I read into, that's the Hannah John Kamen from like Ready Player One and Tomb Raider, like she's Jill Valentine, she's okay. And then
I like how there was people from fucking Letterkenny, Derry from Letterkenny. So as soon as I saw him, I started doing all Letterkenny jokes because it was filmed in Sudbury. So that was funny.
Who does he play?
He played Vicar, the helicopter pilot.
Okay, yeah.
What about you, Phil?
I hated it. It's
a bad movie. I get it.
It's a bad movie. It's
me and Robert convince you otherwise.
I hate dark movies.
Oh,
I get it's Resident Evil. I get it's a horror movie. But like it's so dark you can't see half the movie.
Maybe your settings suck. Did you watch it on a laptop?
I know Phil fucking hates it.
I watched it on my brand new iPad mini that has a great screen on it. Not the best.
A lot of times, Phil fucking hates it because a lot of times in my movie room, I'll leave the lights on, the LED lights, while I'm watching something.
Oh, I hate that.
This was a movie where I had to turn the fucking things off and close the door so I could barely make shit out. Could you
imagine? I guess my TV is just a lot better than yours.
Hold on.
My TV is 65-inch.
No, he has the brightness up to 100%.
This movie is so dark. It was darker than Spider-Man with the CGI. There
was the starting. Remember in the starting when they're looking at Teresa Level or whatever the fuck her name is, Lyle Lovett, whatever, the girl that's wearing the Leatherhead mask. They're looking at her in the orphanage, and I had to fucking squint. Yes. I had to rewind it, turn all the lights off.
Yeah, that was the beginning.
I didn't know what was going on.
the beginning was dark, but like nothing happens really in that scene. It's just her talking
The
to
beginning
the lady
was
from below.
dark.
But
One
like
thing I
my
will
TV,
say,
this
only
makes me feel so good about
only
my
fucking film
my
nerds.
TV.
Only
What
film
TV
nerds
do you
would get
have?
it.
I'm curious.
I have a Sony 4K X900A. It's
an
practically
OLED?
like a prototype because now they're up to X900J or
Is it
something. It's a 65-inch 4K smart TV.
is it an
Pretty much a
OLED?
proto smart TV because it only
Mini
plays
LED?
Netflix
If
and
it's the
YouTube.
X900, I think it's the
LED?
Bravia, which is the same as mine, which is OLED.
LCD?
Yes.
No, it's OLED, and
LE.
it's the honeycomb OLED.
Yeah.
See, OLED's nice.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
But
and
one
I didn't
thing
even
only
necessarily...
film nerds would notice from this movie, when the titles start out, they're John Carpenter font, which I saw right off the gate. And I was like, oh yeah.
That.
And then the guy I started reading about it, and the guy's a huge John Carpenter fan. So I was like, oh,
yeah,
you can feel it, dude.
Like,
yeah, you can feel the influence when you're watching it. It's absolutely they're the most obvious with The Thing. If you've seen The Thing and Big Trouble in China, that's what they look like. So I was really excited.
This movie doesn't matter.
What?
No one's gonna care. Dies? No, it's just no one's gonna care about this movie. Like 3 weeks from now,
nobody really did. But then again, it's cheap. It's like it really felt like for the fans without pandering to like the story was already laid out by the first 3 movies. The first 3 games or 2 games, the story had been told ad nauseum. To me, it was like one of the first. I remember on game trailers when you could watch an explanation of the game's entire story. Like, so you knew about like Leon's first week. I liked how this movie handled Leon for the sake of
Leon
the plot to show that he's a fucking moron.
Leon was the worst.
He irritated me so much, but it kind of worked of like, okay, he's asleep and everybody hates him. So Phil, I wanted some positive points. Number one, I like seeing Neil McDonough. I don't know about you. As soon as I saw him as William Birkin, I'm like, oh yeah, he's
who?
The guy that looks
like
Mike
with the
Judge.
long hair, who's like the bad guy who turns into Nemesis.
Oh yeah. I thought he was like going to be something else, but
he looks like fucking Mike Judge, the guy that created Beavis and Butthead. Whenever I see him, all I can think of is Mike Judge.
If you could have told me, if you would have told me that this guy was an actor in the first Resident Evil, I would have said, yeah, probably.
Yeah, I was watching TikTok last week, and Catherine McDonough, who's his daughter, it's just like I'm at a basketball game, but she like doesn't explain that she's the daughter of like somebody famous or that she's this, and because she's like an 8, 12, 16-year-old, who knows, but it's just a point of view of at the basketball game, and Neil McDonough's at the side. He's like, look out beside you, the guy's a villain, and it's like it's Sean Cahill from like Suits, but he's in so many movies that somebody's like, he's this guy, no, he's this guy, no, it's like Walking Tall, no, it's like this.
I wrote down
like, just TikTok cameos.
I have a sneaking suspicion that Will and Phil are going to compare me to the trucker because every second word out of his mouth is fuck. I was watching that trucker. I'm like, I got a feeling they're going to think that I talk a lot like that guy.
It was a bit much with the trucker, and it's like
I think because they had to get their R rating.
You think the trucker is a bit much? The police captain was a bit much. Holy crap! Was that a horrible character?
I like the actor who plays the police captain.
Yeah.
If you ever watch the show Terriers, he's that guy.
Yeah, that actor is a great actor. This character was awful.
Rob, was that a character in the games? The sheriff? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Yeah, because I was thinking,
one thing that I remember the most out of this movie watching it is there are so many scenes like when they go into the fucking manor and it shows like the stairs going up and the stuff that's on the side.
Yeah,
those are shots from the game.
Yes,
and there were so many like that when they're looking at the police station.
Yeah,
excuse me, when they would close doors and turn around.
Yeah, with the bus
that camera angle,
or the truck.
that was right out of the video game.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. I thought that was fucking great.
I thought the truck was going to go barreling through the doors.
Well, I had a couple of questions though.
They didn't have the budget.
I had a couple of questions. Does Raccoon City ever have a daytime? Because I feel like every fucking scene, regardless of what time it was, when Chris and Claire were kids, when they were older, it was always nighttime. All the time it was nighttime. But I was like, holy shit. It was
a mood setter. How about that horrible exterior shot of the explosion at the end where they show like above the town?
The cow?
But they're so far out of the town, but it doesn't look like anything. It's like awful. But
this looks like a really bad video game shot.
Yeah.
I did point out too that I'm glad to see that Jill, like in the video game, Jill hates bras, so that was good.
Oh, I don't exactly notice it. I like Jill Valentine. She was probably the character I was most attached to. Probably,
I prefer the way,
which is funny because Claire Redfield is supposed to be
Claire was the
and
fucking worst. That character was awful. Because she was a terrible person. Claire. She just goes into her fucking brother's house, starts eating fucking food that's on the table, steals his fucking motorcycle. Like, she was an awful fucking.
You know what it reminded me of? Like the kind of cold openings that you see in some of these bad horror movies, like the Final Destination, like those type of things, where it's just like the actor just shows up and you're supposed to care about them, but there's nothing. That's what that whole thing reminded me of.
I'm a fan of Kayla Scodelario. I'm not sure how you pronounce her name. Kayla Scodelario, who was in Crawl and stuff like that. So like casting her, and like even Robbie Amell, who I don't think is a good actor, but he's perfect as like a meathead Chris Redfield, which we all regard Chris Redfield as like a do right kind of guy, poster boy. Like shitty, I thought it got the cast character in this pretty well right.
I will say the zombie Dobermans looked fucking fantastic. I loved every scene with those zombie Dobermans in them. They just looked fucking great.
I like the rain though. Like I liked how this movie didn't look, and people like to consider that the Paul Anderson movies look plastic on purpose. It's like, no, it just looked cheap. And despite like making a fuck ton of money, the movies like never got any better. So like I like that this was at least trying to be a B movie, like kind of like Night of the Living Dead style. Like it was a retread, and you can tell by the writing and direction that was written by like one guy, and it's like, however stupid it is, it's like one person's vision. The story is terrible.
I did like, however, the majority of the non-expository dialogue makes absolutely no sense, and I wrote this one down just because it was my favorite. Leon asks Claire, I guess you're wondering what a guy like me is doing being a cop. And she answers back, yeah, kind of. And that's the end of the conversation. I'm like,
well, because
okay.
None of the writing was any good.
There was a whole bunch of like or because you couldn't call it expository, it didn't forward the plot at all, but it was like, man, how are we gonna get out of this one? I know, right?
So
that's the end of the conversation.
I want to ask Phil a couple of things that are definitely like that.
Can I just make one point first? The bad guy at the end, what's the big mutation?
Nemesis.
What was it called? Nemesis. To me, that was like the super shredder of the movie. If you've seen Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
And it's funny because that super shredder came before, I'm pretty sure, even Nemesis.
So, I don't know. Yeah.
What I do like is like, in the Nemesis video game, he has the eye in his shoulder, and in Resident Evil 2, I believe, Paul W. Sanderson one, Nemesis shows
Mr.
up.
X.
Yeah, but no, Nemesis shows up, but he doesn't have the eyeball in his shoulder, and I was super fucking psyched to see that, because I remember in the video game, you have to, I believe, take a chainsaw and stab it into it, or some sort of device and stab it into Nemesis' eyeball.
That's what I was thinking. Shoot the weak points. How about the fact that they don't kill him until he's like super transformed is like stupid. It's like he's standing over them dead, and they could classic movie could finish the job, but they just
the stupidness of the bazooka not harming anybody.
Hey, you have to have a bazooka in a Resident Evil game, man.
But in Resident Evil 5, you can do that. Like you can shoot a bazooka 6 feet from somebody.
Every one of the games, every one of the games has a bazooka in it.
That just came out at me, and I'm like,
I thought it was stupid that Wesker. Are they trying to say that Wesker is blind behind his sunglasses?
Well, he's always kind of been
that character as blind.
It's like it's like Dracula. Like that's how he sees. Because remember in well, I guess you didn't play Resident Evil 5, but Wesker wears the sunglasses in Resident Evil 5, and he actually, when you turn off the lights, he can't see. So he sees in like a superhuman way, like Dracula, but he also
they never had this in Resident Evil 1 or 2. That's why I don't remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's just the end credits sucked. But I wanted to ask Phil one thing about it. That scene, the one most impactful scene that I'm like, okay, this is a filmmaking decision. The one filmmaking decision in this movie is at the police station when the zombie walks in on fire to the music, and to me, that was like the one thing I'm like, oh, somebody decided to make a movie today.
That was cool. Yeah.
So,
That felt like you're
and
right
then
out
the
of the
one
fucking
thing,
video game.
But to counter that point, the times where the zombies would do the jump scares, but then they'd leave it on screen for way too long.
That's right out of the video game.
It's
That's
just like,
right out of the fucking video game.
I like how
okay,
the
I'm
zombies
where,
took a lot of
where
bullets,
you would
like,
see
in the
like a
video game.
zombie standing there, and then you'd see the characters like run around them right out of the fucking video game. So again,
I like
that's
how
not going to make a good movie, but it was neat to see those little. You could tell that they had played.
it felt like
when
this
they
movie
shoot
was
in
in
the chest
3D.
5 times and they still don't go down.
Yeah,
I like that.
but they go and then they keep it coming. Yeah, that's right out of the fucking video game.
It's Walking Dead too.
Yeah,
Anyway.
no, don't they go down on Walking Dead with like one shot to the shoulder?
Well,
No,
you forget
to shoot
in
them in the
Walking
head
Dead,
for
they've
them to
also got
die.
to have a bunch of digital blood splatter, and then they've got to focus on Andrew Lincoln crying.
What do you think of the shot when the sheriff tries to escape town? And because I thought that was going to be his death scene, but they realize enough of like there are so many important video game characters in this movie that we can't kill. And I figured the same. It's like, oh, we got to drag this guy out. So like when he escapes there, I'm like, he's actually gonna make it, because I thought he was gonna get taken out by the military. And then in the garage, I'm like, okay, this is his moment. And then it doesn't happen. And then he also unceremoniously gets killed by the liquor. That like bothered me, because it's like the one person you can kill in this movie, and you kill him like unceremoniously. Like I wanted him to be dragged really far by Nemesis or something like that, and have a really drawn out death that would have impacted the movie a lot.
So quickly, how many zombies out of 10 would you guys rate this?
I'm gonna have
an
to
easy
go with
5.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with a 6.
4.
This movie felt short to me. Like I watched it in 2 parts, but it didn't feel like it dragged on.
I like that about it. It was a quick fucking one and done. It got in and got out.
Yeah. Let me just see. And so overall, my one takeaway is I liked Jill Valentine. I liked Jill Valentine. That's kind of it, actually. But the movie didn't demand anything of me as a viewer where I was like bothered. My expectations were like low, and I enjoyed the spirit of it more than Resident Evil, the previous series, which I know a lot of people have mistaken to think is good now because it's old. But yeah,
the only good part of the original Resident Evil movies is on the commentary of the very first movie at the end, when she's on that bed. She's only got a sheet of paper as her clothes. Mila Jovovich tells the person that she's watching, I can't remember who she's watching it with on the commentary, but she goes, oh, look, this is my twat shot. And I'm like, wow, you can tell she knows what's fucking selling this movie.
Because Alice is honestly like a pretty good character, and pretty
good looking
memorable.
Character, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like Mila Jovovich is like a model and stuff, but yeah, it's only 107 minutes long, and this one. And the one thing that I learned about the previous Resident Evil movie was that the stunt double didn't want to do it for the 6th or 5th, like one of the latter Resident Evils, didn't want to do a shot. The director, Paul Anderson, forced her to do it, doubling for Mila Jovovich, and she got paralyzed, basically. And then she wasn't covered by insurance for the movie and stuff, for the director's negligence of like not setting it up properly or safety wise, and now she's suing. But it just made me think they confirmed how lazy and cash grabby the previous movies were, even though, you know, I didn't mind the last one I said earlier, and I like some of the cast members, but it's like they really didn't give a shit about the respect. It's like made by an older generation of people, of like, yeah, you know, we'll make our own movies, and that's to be respected in a way of like going your own way and doing your own thing. But with this movie, I was looking for something more slavish. I just wanted a straightforward retelling of the Resident Evil myth, and I got that. So, I mean, I'd give it an honorary D plus, or no, I'll give it a C. And out of zombies, I'll give it a 6 out of 10.
All right. So sorry to cut you off, but next week we're going to watch Star Wars, the Boba Fett The Book of Boba Fett,
Not
episode
Star
1.
Wars, the Boba Fett.
Sorry. And then we're going to do a special Hour of Sour podcast where we're going to do all Golden Globes predictions.
Yay. I guess we're gonna
They're already out, aren't they? The Golden Globes?
Not the winners. Did
Oh,
they
okay,
do it
yeah.
early?
No.
Well, hopefully
I
not.
don't know. I thought you were talking about
All
the
right.
nominees.
No, yeah,
Was
we
there
have the
anything this week
nominees.
we
We're just
didn't
going to do
get
the predictions of who wins.
Yeah.
We didn't get to Don't Look Up. Don't worry about it. It sucks.
My AirPods died. That's how long we were talking.
Watchandcomplain.com.
Don't Look Up. Worst movie of the year.
It's horrible.
Easily.
It's absolute shit.
Awful. Garbage.
Yeah.
Not even worth being
No,
on.
no, don't
Put
even
that
talk
as a
about it.
TikTok.
It's garbage.
Fucking
Yeah,
sucks.
it's Netflix. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Fuck, it sounds weird now without my my AirPods.
Yeah, I heard them cut out. Your audio went
It was
weird.
like ding, 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 and I was like, "The fuck was that?" I thought it was you guys did something. That's why I was like, "What? What's going on?" But then only one died. The other one was still fucking running, but only one died.
They